Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dr. James Gill and you've joined me for a Christmas story rather than clinical skills. It's that time of the year and I need to do something to provide a little bit of good night listening for my nephew Harrison. So today we're going to do The Elves and Shoemaker by the Brothers Grimm, apparently joined by one cat. So, The Elves and the Shoemaker. A shoemaker, by no fault of his own, had become so poor that at last he had nothing left but leather for one pair of shoes. So in the evening he cut out the shoes with which he wished to begin to make the next morning, and, as he had a good conscience, he lay down quietly in his bed, commended himself to God, and then fell asleep. In the morning, after he had said his prayers and was just going to sit down to work, the two shoes stood quite finished on his table. He was astounded and knew not what to say of it. He took the shoes in his hands and observed them closer, and they were so neatly made that there was not one bad stitch in them, just as if they were intended as a masterpiece. Soon after, a buyer came in, and as the shoes pleased him so well, he paid more for them than was customary, and with the money the shoemaker was able to purchase leather for 2 pairs of shoes. He cut them out at night, and the next morning was about to set to work with fresh courage, but he had no need to do so, for when he got up they were already made, and buyers were also not wanting, who gave him money enough to buy leather for 4 pairs of shoes. The following morning, too, he found the 4 pairs made, and so it went on, constantly. What he cut out in one evening was finished by the morning, so that soon he had his honest independence again, and at last he became a wealthy man. Now, it befell that one evening, not long before Christmas, when the man had been doing this cutting out, he said to his wife before going to bed, "What say you if we were to stay up tonight and see who it is who lends us this helping hand?" The woman liked the idea and lighted a candle, and they both hid themselves in the corner of the room behind some clothes which were hanging up there and watched. When it was midnight, 2 pretty little naked men came and sat down by the shoemaker's table, took all the work which was cut out before them, and began to stitch and sew and hammer so skillfully and so quickly that their little fingers the shoemaker could not turn away with his eyes for astonishment. They did not stop until all was done, and stood finished on the table, and then they ran quickly away. Next morning the woman said, "The little men have made us rich, and we really must show them that we are grateful for it. They run about so, and have nothing on, and must be so cold. I tell thee what I'll do. I'll make them little shirts, and coats, and vests, and trousers, and knit both a pair of stockings, and do thou too make them 2 little pairs of shoes." The man said, "I shall be very glad to do it too." And one night, when everything was ready, they laid their presents all together on the table instead of the cut-out work, and then concealed themselves to see how the little men would behave. At midnight they came bounding in and wanted to get to work at once, but they did not find any leather to cut out, only the pretty little articles of clothing. They were at first astonished, and then showed intense delight. They dressed themselves with the greatest rapidity, putting on the pretty little clothes and singing, "Now we are boys so fine to see, why should we longer cobblers be?" Then they danced and skipped and leapt over the chairs and benches. At last they danced out of the door, and from that time forth they came no more. But as long as the shoemaker lived, all went well with him, and all his undertakings prospered. So the Brothers Grimm have done several stories which are at least considered Christmassy. I think that one's probably only a Christmas story in the sense that it uses the word Christmas once. So they have another one, Mother Hollie, by the Brothers Grimm. There was once a widow who had 2 daughters, one of whom was pretty and industrious, while the other was ugly and idle. But she was much fonder of the ugly and idle one, because she was her own daughter, and the other, who was a stepdaughter, was obliged to do all the work in the house, and be Cinderella to the house. Every day the poor girl had to sit by a well in the highway and spin till her fingers bled. Now it happened that one day the shuttle was marked with her blood, so she dipped it in the well to wash off the mark, but dropped it out of her hand and fell to the bottom. She began to weep and ran to her stepmother and told her of the mishap. But she scolded her sharply and was so merciless as to say, "Since you have let the shuttle fall, you must fetch it out again." So the girl went back to the well and did not know what to do. And in the sorrow of her heart, she jumped into the well to get the shuttle. She lost her senses, and when she awoke, she came to herself again. She was in a lovely meadow where the sun was shining, and many thousands of flowers were growing. Along this meadow she went, and at last she came to a baker's oven full of bread. And the bread cried out, "Oh, take me out, or I shall burn, and I have been baked a long time." So she went up and took all the loaves, one after another, out with the bread shovel. After that she went on till she came to a tree covered with apples, which called out to her, "Oh, shake me, we apples are all ripe." So she shook the tree till the apples fell like rain, and went on shaking until they were all down. And when she gathered them into a heap, she went on her way. At last she came to a little house, out of which an old woman peeped, but she had such large teeth that the girl was frightened and was about to run away. But the old woman called out to her, "What are you afraid of, dear child? Stay with me. If you will do all the work in the house properly, you should be the better for it. Only must take care of my bed well, and shake it thoroughly till the feathers fly, for then there is snow on the earth. I am Mother Hollie." As the old woman spoke so kindly to her, the girl took courage and agreed to enter her service. She attended to everything to the satisfaction of her mistress, and always shook her bed so vigorously that the feathers flew about like snowflakes. So she had a pleasant life with her, never an angry word, and boiled or roasted meat every day. She stayed some time with Mother Hollie, and then she became sad. At first she didn't know what was the matter with her, but found at length that it was homesickness. Although she was many thousands of times better here than at home, still she had a longing to be there. And at last she said to the old woman, "I have a longing for home, and however well off I am down here, I cannot stay any longer. I must go up again to my own people." Mother Hollie said, "I am pleased that you long for home again, and as you have served me so truly, I myself will take you up again." Thereupon she took her by the hand and led her to a large door. The door opened, and just as the maiden was standing beneath the door, a heavy shower of golden rain fell, and all the gold remained sticking to her, so that she was completely covered over with it. "You shall have that because you are so industrious," said Mother Hollie, and at the same time gave her back the shuttle that she had let fall into the well. Thereupon the door closed, and the maiden found herself upon the earth, not far from her mother's house. And as she went into the yard, the cock was standing by the wall and cried, "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Your golden girl's come back to you." So she went into her mother, and as she arrived, thus covered in gold, she was well received both by her and her sister. The girl told all that had happened to her, and as soon as the mother heard how she had come by so much wealth, she was very anxious to obtain the same good luck for the ugly and lazy daughter. She had to seat herself by the well and spin, and in order that her shuttle might be stained with blood, she stuck her hand into a thorn bush and pricked her finger. Then she threw her shuttle into the well and jumped in after it. She came, like the other, to the beautiful meadow, and walked along the very same path. When she got to the oven, the bread cried out, "Oh, take me out, or I shall burn, and I've been baking a long time." But the lazy thing answered, "As if I had any wish to make myself dirty," and on she went. And so she came to the apple tree, which cried, "Shake me, shake me, shake me, the apples are all ripe." But she answered, "I like that, one of you might fall on my head," and so went on. When she came to Mother Hollie's house, she was not afraid, for she'd already heard of her big teeth, and she hired herself to her immediately. The first day she forced herself to work diligently and obeyed Mother Hollie when she told her to do anything, for she was thinking of all the gold that it would give her. But on the second day she began to be lazy, and on the third day more so still, and then she would not get up in the morning at all. Neither did she make Mother Hollie's bed at night as she ought, and did not shake it so much as to make the feathers fly. Mother Hollie was soon tired of this and gave her notice to leave. The lazy girl was willing enough to go, and thought now about the golden rain that would come. Mother Hollie led her to the great door, and while she was standing beneath it, instead of gold, a big kettle full of pitch was emptied over her. "That is the reward of your service," said Mother Hollie, and shut the door. So the lazy girl went home, but she was quite covered in pitch, and the cock by the well, as soon as saw her, cried out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo! Your pitchy girl's come back to you." But the pitch stuck fast to her and could not be got off as long as she lived. The end. There you go. Brothers Grimm. I suppose grim? Certainly a little bit different. Well, we'll leave it for that this evening. I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas in the lead up to it. And we'll see you for the next one. Take care.